Yo, what up, Toji here. I want to apologize. I made a video a while back saying that Etheria Restart was very free-to-play friendly, without knowing that the game was going to have as many issues as it currently does have. Now, to be fair, the game being free-to-play friendly and the game also being well-friendly, those two things can't exist in the game. But the game has made so many recent mistakes that have not been addressed by the company themselves, to the point where now I want to strip away that title from the game altogether. And I also am going to be taking down the video saying that the game was free-to-play friendly, because I don't believe that personally, in my opinion, anymore. Despite what anyone else may think, that's fine. You can have that opinion if you think the game is free-to-play friendly. Also, if I'm like swatting around and stuff like that, I'm sorry, it's fly season around where I live, and my roommate has a bunch of houseplants. So there is a ton of flies around just wandering in my room, and I can't do nothing but just swing at it and just like hopefully I kill it. I think there's like one more around here. Listen, I go through this every single day. That's part of the reason why I don't do face cam. Also, I look chops. I haven't got a haircut in like a minute, so like I'm wearing a hoodie. Like this is what I look like without. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So I'm wearing a hoodie. That's the reason why. So yeah, let's just get into it. There's a lot of posts I want to go over and a lot of things I want to show in this video with anyone that has been having issues with the game, and also want to talk about my personal gripes with this game as well. This is not like a take down XD entertainment video or something like that. This is just like a what is wrong with Etheria Restart and things I want to go over as well. Now, let's start off with the very first one. Apparently, there is a bunch of AI art allegations for Etheria Restart. I had no idea. It didn't really come to my attention. Now, obviously, Shadow Sonya looks a little bit different compared to the average character in Etheria Restart. Like, for instance, her AI art, I can't even zoom in here. Her AI art, or, well, I guess it is AI art, right? Confirmed. Her character model looks a lot different, at least for me personally, compared to some of the other models in the game. Now, that's not telling that all the character models in the game have AI art, but this one specifically is very blatantly obvious that it has AI art. If we go in game, you can see a less pixelated version of the character, and you can obviously, or image of the character, you can obviously tell that the character does have AI art involved in it, in the process of making the art. I don't know if it's fully AI art, but this is like the first red flag with the game, right? So obviously they're doing the easy way of designing characters, going the easy route. Obviously it saves them a lot of money, so like that's part of the reason why they decide to do this. There is still a process in making AI art. I don't want you to believe there's not. It's just that it's drastically less effort compared to actually just hand drawing and stuff like that, right? Okay, so one person ended up buying a pack from the website to, of course, show the support, spin the game, get the resources they wanted from the pack. And there's something went wrong during the transaction, and then the customer service told them to kick rocks, essentially. So the person was buying a pack. Well, this one here says, if you're playing multiple characters across different servers, double check your active character server before buying any packs from the website. Accidentally purchased a pack for the wrong character server, and the items were just sitting there unused in the account. Unfortunately, customer service couldn't transfer me or refund the pack. It's an easy mistake, so be careful. So essentially that they didn't refund or essentially help them when they clearly made a mistake. I've seen games like Epic 7 allow you to essentially, like, a lot of the time, if you make a mistake, if you just contact customer service, assuming you don't use the resources that you made the mistake with, like in this case, premium currency, they most of the time do allow you to get a refund on that specific purchase, or essentially help you get the purchase you were trying to actually make on your account. I'll go as far as say there was an issue before that they actually ended up resolving pretty well. It was like a pack during the release of, what character was it? I don't think it was a specific character release. I think it was during the update, the big update, the Origin update. I believe it was. They had a pack in the shop that was priced wrong, and what they did was they allowed every player that essentially purchased the pack, I believe, and any player that purchased the pack during that time frame to get the full rewards of that pack without penalizing anyone. And then they changed the pack later on to the original price that it was supposed to be. So essentially, they ended up fixing their mistake in the best way possible and continued to, remain, true with their loyal fan base. Whereas Etheria Restart doesn't really care. And this is not the only instance of this happening, mind you. So character nerfs are completely normal. If a character gets nerfed in a game, gacha game for this matter, it's because the character was either overtuned or the character had a mechanic that was not intended for the character to have, or trivialize a mechanic that the character was not meant to trivialize. So in this case, Shadow Sonya was trivializing a specific content in the game, in this case Aurora, so they decided to nerf Shadow Sonya because she was trivializing that content. Whether or not that's completely true is not up for debate here. In my honest opinion, though, I do believe that Shadow Sonya, compared to some of the other characters like Ditting, is still fair in comparison, even when she was supposedly terrorizing that specific content. Characters like Ditting just make all of the contents, for the most part, that you want to farm pretty relevant as a character that is a 4-star Light and Dark character, whereas Shadow Sonya is a 5-star Light and Dark character. You tell me that this 5-star Light and Dark character is worse than a 4-star version? You're out of your mind. Now, this person said, no character reset after all of these nerfs. Now, if they were to nerf a character, the least they could do, because of how resource heavy and how grindy this game is give you the resources that you use to essentially, put into the character. Give you back the resources after they decide to nerf these characters. That's the least they could do. Okay? But they don't even do that. If we don't get compensated for nerfs, quit the game. Is that simple? We'll stop being I'm not going to read that on camera. Idiots trying to justify Etheria devs' actions because you spent money and don't want to realize it was wasted on a predatory game at this point. So essentially what you have is a lot of people in the world chat, even the communities of this game, not these games. Well, it's a lot of time games as well, because it's not their first rodeo most likely. And it's not the first rodeo for a lot of players when it comes to games like this. But essentially what you have are these players that are well invested into the game, whether that is money, time, or even emotionally, right? To the point where they are defending the actions of the devs, even if the actions are either blatantly ripping off other players, scamming other players. The devs' actions are blatantly just being very, I want to say a better word for malpractice. It's not malpractice because obviously they're not like killing people or something like that, harming people, but something along the lines of that. They're treating their players very, 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 very poorly and not doing the best they can, not even communicating with their players. And you have a bunch of players in the game, in the chat, defending this and gaslighting you for believing that there's anything wrong with the game to begin with, and there's any issues in the game, and you are just complaining, and all you do is complain. That is their favorite word to bring up, complain. All you do is complain. You're so negative. Well, yeah, I'm negative because this game has negative edged me to the point where I have to complain about these issues. All right, people are tired of Genshin gacha grinds that are just money cesspools meant to extract as much as possible from your wallet and give you as little as possible. Etheria will die in global if they continue this, and whales will be chatting to themselves in world chat. So they're obviously talking about the whales in world chat. And I mean, you already see this now, right? Whales typically confined to each other in games like this, especially when there is a sort of interaction with each other they can have. So you see a lot of the time, the whales kind of like feed off of each other, right? If one spins, the other will continue spinning. If one spins more, the other will spin more, and so on and so forth. They just feed off of each other. Many characters look massively AI generated. We already went over that, right? Obviously, no dev communication. The devs are not communicating. It's very unprofessional. They haven't even give out any announcement regarding the nerfs in advance, right? The least they could do is tell us, hey, we're going to nerf Shadow Sonya a week prior to the game coming out. And players would have either that have spent money on the character wouldn't have done so because the character was going to get nerfed. And players that have obtained the character wouldn't have put so many resources into building the character for specific teams to use in specific contents in the game because they would have thought the character was going to get nerfed. So there's no point in building this character when they could build other characters that aren't going to get nerfed or are not as overtuned, right? Well, they didn't do any of that, and they didn't refund anybody or reset the character. You had to use the in-game reset, which, mind you, had a time window to where you could reset, and it also costs premium currency to reset your characters after the first time, because most players are using that reset on their Leon, which was a free character you were given for free, that you needed to essentially grind out to complete the achievement thing in the game, right? To get the rewards and all that. Well, yeah, you're out of luck because that no longer exists in the game, so you cannot reset the character. It had a time window, and there was a sort of like paid part in it where you had to use premium currency to reset your character. So that was a big U coming from XD, essentially. If something doesn't change by the end of the month, I'm quitting permanently and really don't care. Played Epic 7 since 2019. At least devs there have some respect to communicate to their player base. Honestly, do believe Epic 7 does treat their players a lot better, which is not really... Like, Epic 7 is that game that is... Let's not get it twisted here. Epic 7 has a ton of issues as well. The biggest issue being how absolutely horrible the in-game meta is for PvP, right? And how centered that meta is around having the newest ML, Moonlight, Broken, Light, and Dark characters. Which, let's be brutally honest here, at a certain point, this game is going to devolve to that as well. We're at the point now where RGBs feel really, really darn strong. But that doesn't mean that RGB is going to be strong forever. And Light and Dark characters are going to be the characters that rule PvP, which is definitely going to be this game at a certain point. We just are not at that point yet. But yeah, that is the biggest issue I can think of with Epic 7. And they can say the gear grind, but gear grind is horrible in all of these gacha games. I don't consider one to be just so much worse than, well, maybe shell farming in this game included with the gear grinding is pretty bad in this game. But yeah, whatever. So now you have people complaining on these Google reviews, right? App Store reviews, Play Store reviews, and giving bad reviews to the game, basically going over everything the devs did wrong and their shortcomings, stuff like that, and their disappointment with the dissatisfaction with the game. I personally don't care to do this. I'm just going to stop playing. And I honestly believe instead of doing all of this, if you want to, like, this is someone that obviously is more emotional about the game than I am. I wouldn't go through all of this, but knock yourself out. I'll personally just stop playing the game, right? That's how I feel. So it's just me, or is Hoyen's S2 healing got removed? You're kidding me. I just summoned for this character. You're telling me the character I just summoned for was nerfed before the character came out, and I had no way of knowing this character was nerfed because I looked at your trailer and I thought this character was broken. You're telling me you nerfed this broken character right before they released? So my 80 pulls into this banner is now wasted because this broken character is no longer broken. You removed the mechanic from this character's kit. Are you kidding me? Am I crazy seeing her intro on Etheria Restart's channel with her S2 having heal when triggered? What are the devs doing? This game not gonna last, lol. It was literally in beta, not live release. So why her showcase video from beta not using release kit? This dude got him with this one. No response, by the way. I mean, you can't come back after that, right? Like, the thing is, it's always like this when it comes to any issues in games like this. You have players defending it, and you have players calling them out, and then once the player call them out, they just stop communicating because they're like, you know what? He's right, but I don't want him to know that he's right, so I'm just going to leave. The devs gaslight players so much, they think we all have Alzheimer. I can't pronounce this. Alzheimer's. LOL, man. This greedy devs just want to milk global. Honestly, they're milking the whales, right? With the esports ready thing they're doing in the game currently, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Don't you wait. So apparently Veronica got nerfed. Now Veronica, from what I remember, is the red-haired chick that looks like a witch, right? I believe that's who it is, and she's a 5-star character, I believe. I could be wrong on this, but I believe she is the witch-looking chick with the big booba with red hair. I believe. So apparently she got nerfed, and I didn't even know she got nerfed. So with proper team setup, you could have infinite duration on Soul Ward. Apparently this was an invincibility thing. So essentially, so long story short, you could have perma invincibility or 2-turn invincibility on this character in the specific team setup with Veronica, and it was like Mia, Doki, Lily, Lingluo, which is like, mind you, 2 light and dark characters, okay? 2 characters that are going to be hard to obtain because there is no direct way of getting the character, right? Let's be honest here. Lily is still a character that's extremely hard to obtain. Doki Doki is a character that is still really hard to obtain, despite what you want to believe, what you see online. Mia, Lingluo, and Veronica are 3 5-star characters that, except for Lingluo, these 2 are either characters you have to get from your 40 pulls on the banner, or a targeted banner, right? So you have to use your targeted summon on the character. Or you get the character from the banners. You get lucky, like permanent banner, right? You get lucky getting that character from that banner on your pity. When I say lucky, I mean like you were getting the character with intent to use a specific comp for the specific contents because you found out this comp was good, like broken, right? And it was like busted. It had a mechanic that was not intended to be there. Okay? So you wasted resources trying to get these characters, get this team going, and it is 5 premium characters, 2 of which are light and dark characters that are extremely hard to obtain. Okay? So with this hard to get setup, you essentially had 2 turns of immortality. So not invincibility, 2 turns of immortality. And there's no character in the game currently, aside from like characters that can remove debuffs, like for instance, Heinrich, right, can remove buffs. There's no character that can go through immortality as far as I'm concerned. Like, for instance, Messiah can't go through immortality, right, as far as I'm concerned. I know he can go through the passive of Hoyen, but he can't go through immortality, as far as I'm concerned. You know, don't quote me on that. So essentially, having this setup allow you to have the 2-turn immortality, and again, this person said you needed 5 specific characters, 5-star, 2 which are light and dark, and a lot of setup for a build that you have to play manually and may take ages to clear because you are immortal and have 0 damage. And yeah, they could have left it as it was. in all honesty, they decided to just nerf it and they didn't compensate the players that ended up rolling for the characters involved in this process, such as Veronica, who herself got nerfed, right? So, I mean, if this is, and I heard she was already the worst character in the game, or one of the worst characters in the game. Again, if I'm thinking of the red hair character with the big booba and the witch hat, right? It's very disappointing. They didn't really have to do this, but they decided to do it anyways, and now they're relegating this in-game PvP meta to just be strictly debuff heavy and speed focused and cleave rushdown comps. How nice. The comps that are very centered around whales. Last post here is apparently this person saying this game is going to be dead in 2 to 3 months. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but the devs have definitely had a lot of issues that needed to be addressed, and they didn't address any of them. The way devs handle controversy, some posts popping up here and there, how they handle refund requests for problematic purchases, the content creators' coverage, number of people in the subreddit pretty much stable, Google Trends for past 7 days, already declining. Now, the declining is very healthy, is very normal. This happens in every gacha game. It's just not exclusive to Etheria Restart. This happened in Rivals, although Rivals had a longer time of remaining relevant, like mainstream. It still is, I mean, you can call it, no, it's not really mainstream anymore, but, you know, it was definitely mainstream at a certain point. But this is healthy for any game. Any game has a decline. You're going to have your players that are just playing the game, trying the game out. You're going to have your players that are like, I didn't really like the game as much as I thought I was going to like it. And you have your players that are very focused and actually continuously playing the game. And then you'll have players that are quitting later on, right? And then players that stay indefinitely. Where that's sunk cost fallacy with like money, time, and emotionally invested into the game, right? Okay. So this person's been having fun. If it wasn't on Reddit, I wouldn't even know there was any controversy, but I assume is the case for most average players. Being too online is a curse. So this person is saying that if they weren't online, that they wouldn't have known there was any issues. So it's kind of like downplaying it, right? And they're basically saying that their experience is different from everyone else's, so they don't really care, basically, right? And this dude's saying there's typical doom posting in Reddit, and it's always a vocal minority that think like this. Not looking good, to be honest. I enjoyed the game a lot and played quite hardcore up to level 28 or 48 now. Also paid a bunch of level value packs, but the way they're handling communication shadow changes kills my trust in the game's future, which means I won't be paying any again until anything changes. Blah blah. Honestly, I wouldn't have paid anything in this game to begin with. I already mentioned this before that being free to play in this game is the way to go. Not spending any money in this game is the way to go. This game has showed time after time that they don't care about their players. They don't care about the spinners. They don't care about anybody but I guess they only care about the spinners. But do they really care about the spinners when they're nerfing these characters that people spend money on? I don't know who they care about at this point. Maybe they don't care about anybody. Maybe they don't even care about the company. I don't know what they're doing at this point. So yeah, man, there's a lot of issues going on with Etheria Restart right now, and whether or not you want to believe that these are issues or these are fake news here, beyond me. But from as far as I can tell, these are definitely very real issues that is affecting a lot of real players. And for me personally, I've experienced some of these things. Like, for instance, I own Shadow Sonya, so having this character be nerfed was essentially a very, very, very rough thing to get over for me. And the fact that I invested some resources into this character for this character to, again, be worse than pre-existing characters in the game, such as 4-star dating and other DPS characters in respective contents, is just laughable. How the freak do we nerf a character that is worse than a 4-star light and dark character? Okay? Before the nerfs, worse. And we nerf this character. Are you kidding me? The reason why the character may have performed at HELL stage, I don't like saying that word, I'm sorry. HELL stages, right? Is because, for one, people that were tackling that content didn't have the gear to do it, so they were using a character that essentially allowed them to ignore the enemy's defense and do true damage while just building that character tanky, which, mind you, the runs took forever because you have to stack so many of those dots onto the enemy. You have to stack 20 dots onto the enemy, 20, right? And with how this game works, the enemies could either resist, or the enemies could just straight up not even get the dot to begin with, because there is RNG, aside from Shadow Sonya, with landing that dot into the enemy. Shadow Sonya can throw 2 dots at once with her basic attack. Other characters like Fangus and Obol have RNG, whether or not you have skill ups on them to land a dot. That is very frustrating, okay? So there's RNG involved. It takes a lot of investment, a lot of skill ups, and you're telling me that we decide to nerf this team before we touch any of the other teams in endgame contents. Ridiculous. And then you have Hoyen getting nerfed too before release. Dude, I spent 80 pulls on this character. I didn't even know the character got nerfed. Now, obviously, I personally rolled for this character based on her design alone. So for me, I didn't really care I don't really care. I'll be honest, I don't care. It is an issue, though. It is an issue. It really is an issue. And they should absolutely address it. But at this point, I'm going to say this, and I mean this genuinely. I don't think they're going to address anything. I'm not expecting them to address anything, and it is what it is at this point. If you are unsatisfied with the current game state, you should quit now and save your sanity. That's my opinion. That's this video here. Thank you for watching and have a nice rest of your day. I do apologize for saying that this game is free-to-play friendly. There is nothing in place in this game to make this game free-to-play friendly anymore. They're doing a lot of shady practices and essentially not caring about any of their players, regardless if you spent money on the game or not. Yeah, it is what it is, though.